What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to EP09. Some say that second place is the worst placing you could hope to achieve in the world of professional bodybuilding. Because if you are the heir apparent and don't deliver, it can be a very steep fall from grace. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to EP09 Bodybuilding. We've got an update at 7 weeks out from Mike Sommerfeld. Second place at the 2024 Mr. Olympia competition behind none other than Chris Bumstead. These stakes are very, very high going into this Arnold Classic for Mike Sommerfeld. He says here his look has changed. I don't know if I'll really agree with that until he hits the stage, but conditioning at 7 weeks out, I think does look a little bit behind at this point. I was expecting Mike to be just a little bit more conditioned, maybe even a lot more conditioned at this point, especially when you look at his greatest competition, Wesley Vissers. We'll check out Wesley in a minute. I think Mike is behind. I want to see more detail in the back. I want to see the abs more etched at this point. I mean, this is just not going to be enough. Now, of course, that could just be a camera angle. It could be a lighting thing. When you look at Mike in a little bit more favorable lighting like we see here, you are seeing more detail in the quads. You're actually seeing some striations in the teardrops. It does look like he has more definition through the chest, more definition through the shoulders. So it could have just simply been, like I said, lighting. It could have been camera angle. But even still, with this favorable lighting, I still don't think that Mike is necessarily where he needs to be at 7 weeks out. So I really hope that we do see things dial in much quicker for Mike Sommerfeld. This will not be enough to win the Arnold Classic title. I don't just expect to see this type of package at the Arnold Classic. I expect to see a better package at the Arnold Classic. Mike says that his shape has changed. Well, where has he really changed in the shape department? Maybe bigger arms at this point. I don't know about anything else. Maybe bigger quads. And although his conditioning was definitely on point here, I think that he could come in just a little sharper through the upper body from the front. From the back, lots of detail. That's a big part of what really put him up and over the top at the Olympia. But from the front, through the upper body specifically, I think. If you look through the chest of Mike Sommerfeld at the Olympia, could have been a little bit sharper. There is still 7 weeks to go, and either way, we will see a serious battle between Mike Sommerfeld and Wesley Vissers. The question will be, who will be the victor? And this is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This is what Mike Sommerfeld is going to have to contend with. Wesley Vissers at 7 weeks out is shredded to the bones. Look at the striations in the chest. Look at the detail in the midsection. Even though he's pulling a vacuum in this shot, you can actually see the striations in the front delts in this picture. Absolutely on point. Wesley Vissers, we would not expect anything less at this point out from the competition. Ever since he took those 2 Arnold Classic titles, he has been on point. Absolutely unbelievable. I think this is going to be the best package of Wesley Vissers that we've ever seen. Made some mistakes at the Olympia, ended up coming in 8th place. But we are seeing the conditioning at this point, and I do think that we will see an improved package of Wesley Vissers at the Arnold Classic. What does Wesley have to do in order to improve on what we saw at the Olympia? Really, it comes down to the legs. As always with Wesley Vissers, it is going to come down to the legs. Do the legs match his absolutely insane standard setting upper body? Well, I really don't know if he's had the time to put the size on in the legs at this point. And we haven't seen anything from Wesley in any of his social media where he's shown us the legs. So that tells me that they could be a little bit behind. Wesley recently did a training camp with his coach, Stefan Kinzel, of course the coach of basically half of the IFBB Pro League at this point, where they actually have a different strategy going into this year's Arnold Classic as compared to the Olympia strategy. They apparently still had an entire kilo of weight that they could have come up when they did the weigh-ins at the Olympia, and Wesley was fully clothed at that point. So what they're going to try and do is carb up earlier so they can come in fuller and hopefully give that illusion I would assume they're going for when it comes to the legs. Because if Wesley Vissers can bring this level of conditioning with better legs to the show, I'll pick him to win again, no question. There is no doubt that Wesley Vissers was shredded at the Olympia, but he really did look small, especially through the arms, because Wesley doesn't have the biggest arms, but he does have great proportion in the arms, especially from the front. At the Olympia, it didn't look like he had it. The triceps especially, I think, looked very undersized. Great detail in the quads, without a doubt. The condition, just look at the conditioning factor. Absolutely unbelievable. But he came in flat. So they know what they want to do this time around between him and Stefan. And I think that it could work very, very well in his favor. But again, the legs really have to come up in size. I don't think he's had enough time to do it this offseason, but it might be enough to come in and win this show. Personally, I think that if he wins this show, take the time, go back to the gym, increase your calories, bring up the legs, and get that path to victory at the Olympia. Get into that top 3 where you deserve to be on that Olympia stage. This 8th place stuff at the Olympia moving forward, it's just not conducive with a 2-time Arnold Classic champion. Take the time, make the improvements, come in, and fight for the title. So this is what it comes down to in the battle between Wesley Vissers and Mike Sommerfeld. If Mike brings comparable conditioning, he may be able to defeat Wesley. But if Wesley brings the fullness, especially through the legs, and there's even a marginal increase in size, it could go to Wesley's favor. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Who will win the battle between Mike Sommerfeld and Wesley Vissers? Will it be the 2-time 2024 champion or second place at the Olympia, Mike Sommerfeld, who pushed Chris Bumstead more than any other competitor has ever done in the classic physique division? You guys let me know. With the implementation of the classic physique division, it has done wonders for competitors that simply could not make it in the open division. Maybe you don't have the shape, maybe you can't gain the size, maybe you just look better at that lower weight. And I'm starting to think more and more that I think that could be the case for Patrick Tuor. Looking at 7 weeks out from the Arnold Classic. Actually did the Arnold Classic last year, did not do very well in that show. He really has been having trouble the last number of seasons, and I'm really not seeing the difference in size that Patrick would need to make in order to really push for a top placing at the Arnold Classic. I think even top 5 is well outside of anything that Patrick could hope to achieve at this year's show if this is what we're seeing. And I'm just being honest with you guys. He needs more size in the arms, obviously needs more size in the legs. Ever since he had that injury in the lower body, it was actually an Achilles tendon injury. It just hasn't been the same. The X factor going into this Arnold Classic is that Patrick is back working with his former coach, Chris Aceto. Chris is the one who coached him to his 10th place finish at the 2019 Mr. Olympia, easily his best look to date. And we've never seen Patrick really regain that physique to that level. Ever since then, it just has never lived up to that expectation. Patrick is an older competitor, relatively speaking. He is over 40 at this point. So when it comes to the muscle gains that he would need to make in order to get back to top 10 at the Olympia, like I said, I really think that dropping down to classic physique could be the best move for Patrick Tuor. And let me explain why. This guy has shape that is screaming classic physique. He has the lines, he has the X-frame, he has the muscle bellies, he has the small waistline, and the legs, given the size that they are now from what we saw at the last competition, I think would be proportionally suitable for classic physique. And really, coming down in size should be something that he could do in order to bring down size in maybe the right areas. He could bring down a little bit from the delts, he could bring down a little bit from the back, and I think that would make him much more proportioned and would simply make him more competitive when it comes to placing on some of the biggest stages in the world. If Patrick really wanted to get back into the winner's circle and really make a push for, say, a top 10 spot at the Olympia again, I think the clear path forward is coming down in weight, whatever amount that's going to take, and try it in classic physique. It's not going to really do any worse than what it is that he's going through now. In fact, I would almost guarantee that he would do better in classic than he would in open competitions. But look, I want to hear from you guys on this one as well. Let me know if you think Patrick Moore should seriously, finally consider dropping down to classic physique. As for this show, he is locked in for the open. We'll see what it is that he ends up looking like. And maybe he will end up making the improvements that might shock the entire world of bodybuilding. But I doubt it. Another Arnold Classic update to round out this video. Carlos Thomas Jr. at 7 weeks old. We had this posted by his coach, Patrick Tuor. Absolutely unbelievable. Every time this guy drops an update, it always turns everybody's head online, and everybody looks just a little bit closer to see what kind of improvements that we can see from Carlos Thomas Jr. at this point out from the show. And the improvements that we want to see are definitely in the conditioning factor as well as the back. We have not seen any back shots from Carlos Thomas Jr. at this point. We have seen some training footage, but nothing that tells us that the back is improved. And that is what Carlos is going to need. He needs the back to be improved, especially the back double bicep in particular, and we need to see that conditioning factor. If we see those two things, I will maintain my stance that Carlos Thomas Jr. could push for a top 3 finish at the Arnold Classic. This guy is a freak of nature. He has size like no other. He has shape like no other. But he is still relatively unproven on the stage. The picture on the left being 7 weeks out. The picture in the right in the black trunks being over 10 weeks out, somewhere around that point. What differences are we seeing at this point? Given the fact that obviously the lighting is different, it looks like the camera is actually different. But from what we can see, I think that maybe there's a little bit more definition between the arms, you know, the biceps and the triceps. It looks like there's more separation at that point. You might be able to give a very, very slight edge to the picture on the left when it comes to conditioning in the quads. Vascularity, that could simply be the camera and the lighting, but it does look like he might be more vascular at 7 weeks out. Overall, no substantial improvements really, but still encouraging, I think, at this point. If there's one thing that Patrick Tuor does not miss on, it is most definitely conditioning. But this is their first round working together for a show, so there is an X factor at that point. But I'm still very encouraged by this update. Not only will we see Carlos at the Arnold Classic, but he is also confirmed for the Detroit Pro. So that is 2 shows that we will see Carlos compete at in very short order. So that's a lot that Patrick Tuor can learn about this guy in a pretty short period of time. Carlos also expressed that he is not coming into the Arnold Classic to take anything less than first place. He is very confident that he can come in and do that. Personally, like I said, I'll maintain that I think that he's at a top 3 position as of right now, vying for the top 3 at least. But we'll see if that will change in the coming days and weeks. I'm sure that we'll do a podcast on this for a preview of the Arnold Classic where we will lock in our predictions for the show. But for now, you guys let me know where you think Carlos Thomas Jr. is going to place at this upcoming Arnold Classic. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm going to wrap up the video right here. Thank you guys again for tuning into EP09 Bodybuilding. Be sure to like and subscribe.